Welcome to this week's edition of Fun Activities in 5. This week we are talking about an activity that I really love using as a day off activity. So something that I am not necessarily super involved with outside of monitoring, but that students are engaged in the target language the entire time in a way that's comprehensible for them. So this activity I like to call drawing competitions. You could call it something else in your classroom. It's not a fancy name, but we call it drawing competitions. The way that this activity works is I have students do a writing activity. Maybe in the example that I'm going to show you, students wrote about a superpower that their pet has. Obviously a fake superpower, but we were in a unit about superpowers and pets, so actions and animals and things, and students wrote a little paragraph about their pet and the superpower that they have. So what I did was I gave students a Canva slideshow. You could do this on Google Slides too. I find Canva is a little more creative friendly for this activity. You could also do it on paper. I gave students a pre-made Canva slideshow that on each slide it has a snippet or the entire paragraph if it was short about this pet and their superpower. What students did was they read that and then they used Canva AI or they inserted elements on Canva to create an image of the pet doing this superpower. And they went through and did as many as they could in the class period. Most students did 3 or 4. Now, are students taking more time to do the drawing piece? Yes, but that's okay because they cannot do that piece unless they understand what they're drawing, which means they had to understand what they were reading, which means they did read these things a couple of times. I am monitoring on Land School, which is a monitoring software for computers, and I'm walking around to make sure that students are not just Google translating them or using Canva to translate them. But that's an asterisk over here. So when students are done, I pull these slideshows all together from Canva and I pick what I think are the 3 or 4 best ones for each one. I put them up on the board without the text. And I have students look at them and say like, oh, what's the superpower? What's the pet? What can this pet do? What's the secret talent this pet has? And we kind of picture talk them and then we vote on who had the best drawing for whatever that sentence was. And we keep going through. Why I love this activity, I have learned over the past couple of years, especially with CI, we always say that CI works so well because it's student driven and we do things like PQA where we're asking about their lives and connecting them with other people, and you can take anything and make it CI, like the basketball game from the weekend, the whatever. I think student creating content fills that, but for me, student created content takes a burden off of me. There are days that I can't PQA. There are days that I don't want to talk about the basketball game from this weekend. There are days that I just don't want to do the heavy lifting to make it student-centered and connected. But taking something like having students write about themselves and their pet and reusing that content keeps it student-centered and lessens the burden on you a little bit. And it makes it an activity that you can have basically 2 days, the writing plus the drawing day, where your students are getting a lot of input and a lot of reps, and it's comprehensible and it's interesting and it's engaging and it's still student-centered, but you get a little bit of a step back, a little bit of a break. So when you are doing this activity, I would highly recommend that you pay attention to how your students feel. My students love when they are looking at their pictures and they're like, oh my God, that looks exactly like my dog. Oh my gosh, I want my dog to have purple hair now. Oh, I want my dog to be able to wear a little shirt like the one you put on her in this image of her being a ballerina, whatever it is. It really gets students into the content. So this activity, great for in class, also a great subplan if you are comfortable with trusting your students being on computers while you're not there. But you get a lot of mileage. I will forever be the person that says, if you can have CI that leads into and divulges into student created content that you can reuse in a lot of ways, your life is going to be so much easier as a CI ADI teacher, and you're going to have a lot more sustainability and longevity than someone who just stands in front of kids and talks for 45 minutes 5 or 6 times a day every day. So If you've done something similar to this, I'd love to hear it in your classroom. And if you haven't, I hope you have a new idea that you can try this week. And I look forward to seeing you next time.